Hello, everybody. Since we have a quorum now, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the July 25th Planning, Development, and Environmental Quality Committee. Let's see. Yes, we have all our committee members, most of them remote. That's great. Good to see everybody. And we have a few folks here in the chambers too. So why don't we get started? Do we have any public comment, Brittany? No public comment. And does anybody have any changes to the agenda? Okay, rolling right along. Minutes approval. Would somebody like to move the minutes of June 27th? Randy moves them, Deborah seconds, and we'll do a roll call. Okay, Greg?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes, that's unanimous. Let's see, we have advisory board appointment, and I know I should know this. Do we have to vote on this? Okay, so we have advisory board appointments to the Planning Advisory Board, Liddy Barger, the Human Services Representative, and to the Environmental Management Council, Melanie Graver Cordova. Would someone like to move those? Deborah, seconded by Greg. And why don't we go in the same order to vote? Greg?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's passed unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Let's see, for the chair's report, I don't really have anything new since we just had the legislative meeting and I gave a couple of updates there last week. So we're going to go right on to the county administrator's report about some PAR forms, and we have a couple of folks here. So we have Bridget and Norma who are going to give us an update on that.
Sure. Good afternoon. So Anne, as you mentioned, we do have 5 total project approval request forms that were included in the packets. These are for 2023 inclusion in the capital plan. We have 3 from our planning department and 2 from recycling materials management.
And Bridget, I'm just going to just interrupt there. I just like to always do packet page. So those start on package page 13.
Packet page
Okay,
13.
thank you.
Thank you. I know we have representation from each of those departments. I see Katie and her staff are here, as well as Leo, and Norma is here as well. She's the one that was instrumental in sort of putting together sort of this plan. So would it be helpful to go one by one, or I can open it up to questions in general, however you think?
If you could do a brief one by one, how about that?
Sure. So why don't we start with the Aquafire Study program? That's from our Department of Planning and Sustainability. Katie or somebody else from the Planning Department, would you like to briefly outline this one?
Sure. I actually, could you start with Green Fleet? Because Darby was hoping to hop on to be able to speak to the Aquifer Study program. That's her bailiwick.
Of course. Let's
Thank
move
you.
to the Green Fleet.
Packet page 15.
Yeah, so happy to answer any questions in regard to the Green Fleet PAR form. Essentially, this is where we're switching over to trying to buy basically all of our vehicles through one capital fund rather than doing it department by department or through over target requests as we've done in previous years. So what you'll see here is representing the purchase of pretty much every vehicle that we're going to be buying next year. A lot of electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids are planned, but there are including gasoline vehicles, some of those heavy-duty vehicles, trucks, plow trucks especially, that are just not electrified at this point.
Any questions? So we have Greg and then Deb.
Can I just
clarity as, seeing this for the first time and trying to just wrap our head around this. So it was previous years requested for the green fleet was the 700,000, but there was also vehicles in other departments that were being purchased out of the departments. Now it's all being purchased out of the green fleet. Is that why there's the increase of about 900-ish thousand?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in previous years, what you would have seen is, so for the last 2 years, there's been $350,000 requested in the Green Fleet Capital Fund for each year. So it's a total of 700,000 for the previous 2 years. And what the Green Fleet Capital Fund previously is it was just a mechanism to allow us to buy some electric vehicles, but oftentimes it was being used to help offset the increased cost of electric vehicles. So if a department was going to buy a vehicle for $30,000, but we found an electric vehicle that was $45,000, the Green Fleet Capital Fund would cover that $15,000 difference. That's essentially what happened with the e-transit van that we bought for facilities that we'll talk about a little bit later. Is normally it's about $40,000. I think we found one for $55,000, and so we covered the difference. What's happening now is the Green Fleet Capital Fund is going to cover the entirety of the vehicle purchase. We're going to be taking it out of department budgets, so you won't see it as part of their budgets for the most part. There's some edge cases, and instead it'll all be part of this specific fund. And so this fund is, it's not only buying the vehicles, it's buying charging infrastructure equipment, it's purchasing telematic devices so that we can do a better job of tracking our fleet. And there's a small amount that's going to go towards branding our fleet as well. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So my I guess follow-up question. So that 23 number, that 1.6, should be about the total number of dollars that we'll be spending on fleet for vehicles that can be purchased as electric vehicles, or
all vehicles.
All vehicles.
All vehicles.
Okay. And then I guess the only number, or the only question I would have, maybe this is a question for Norma, how would that compare to, are we seeing that number grow, or where does that compare to total vehicle purchases in previous years? Or is that a fair way to compare that, 23, 24, 25, those numbers to previous years?
Yeah.
Or maybe that's a question for Deb too. I'm not sure.
So, and Norma, and feel free to jump in here if you have any other information. So I've done some calculations for previous years to kind of compare. So the 2019 budget, we were at about 1.5 million in total spend for vehicles. 2020 is a little bit of an outlier year for obvious reasons, and so that went down to about 800-ish thousand. 2021 was about 1 million. 2022 we looked at about 1.4, so we're coming back up to that 2019 level. I will say that what we've noticed with a lot of our departments, and partly one of the big reasons why we're heading in this direction, is that we're trying to be a little bit more proactive in how we purchase vehicles. When we did our most recent inventory, we were seeing vehicles that were still from 2008, 2010, 2012, and vehicles that, at this point, there's no value when we go to sell them. And so the hope is what we're going to be trying to do is trying to be proactive in our management, where we're going to cycle these vehicles out a little bit sooner than we normally would, so that they do still have some resale value. And in the long term, that'll enable us to save money over time. But these first couple of years, when we get our fleet to kind of modernize it, so to speak, and get rid of some of these older vehicles, it probably will be a little bit more money than it has been in previous years. But still, even looking into 2019, and I can go further back if you want. I haven't done those calculations, but it's right around that 2019 level.
Great. Yeah, I thank you. That answers my questions. I think this is the right strategy, and appreciate you having those historical, contextual numbers at the ready. That's helpful in the conversation. So thank you.
Yeah.
If I can just add to what Terry said, the only other thing that I would say is, two things. One is I noticed in the narrative, it still references the highway equipment. That has been parsed out of that. Highway equipment has its own project line now. Secondly, the other good thing about putting this into a project is it helps it will help Terry through his planning for purchasing vehicles, because if they don't all get purchased in 1 year, that funding stays within that same bucket of funding to help kind of plan that out into the future so that it doesn't get mixed in with any other budget. So it's a nice planning tool, the way it's been set up.
Could you guys hear her okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. And next is Deb and then Randy.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a good question. Greg. It's good to know the historical context. I would point out that the 1.6 million figure is a little bit misleading in the sense that the local share of that is still going to be less than $1 million. We're going to maximize the amount that comes from, reselling the vehicles as we go forward. One thing that did confuse me about this PAR form was that the previous year's requested local funding share was 700,000, and that's on page 15, but on 16, it says county administrator note, 2022 budget was 896,645. So I'm trying to figure out how that number fits in with the 700,000. Does anybody know?
My only guess, Deb, was she was probably including the total figure that we purchased for all vehicles as a local share. That's kind of right around what I have when I did looked back.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing I can figure.
Yeah, the note, I could tell you what that, because I put that note there. The note is from, I was tracking how much we actually spent in the vehicle lines within program budgets. So it wasn't really part of the PAR. It was really kind of a note on the side that this is what we had in each of the departmental budgets when those got removed and put into this project.
So that was the aggregate of what we spent on vehicles or what we budgeted for vehicles.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So this increase is only about $100,000, which isn't so bad considering how much the cost of everything has gone up.
Yeah, and I will say that as things continue to go up, I mean, that is certainly a worry. We have tried to be conservative with our resale prices. We've worked with the highway department to try and purposely lowball what we think we'll get on the resale of vehicles, because we understand that right now the used car market's a little bit higher than it's been in previous years. And so we don't want to, count on that inflated market. So we've tried to be somewhat conservative. We also think that, my belief is that we're probably going to carry some Green Fleet capital fund from this year over into next year, which will give us a little bit of a buffer. But yeah, we're hopeful that it won't be too much of an increase over previous years in total.
Thanks, Terry.
Randy?
Yes, thanks for asking that question. That was one of my questions as well. I was confused by that. But does this fund include charging stations as well? And
Yeah,
so
it
how
does.
much is a charging station?
So how much is a charging station, or how much are we spending on charging stations?
I
Both.
think Randy asked, does this amount include charging stations? Is that correct, Randy?
Yes.
Is that
Yeah,
included?
so
in the budget?
it does include money for charging stations, yes.
And how many you're planning on putting in 2023?
The exact number, I can't give you an exact number. There's a lot of kind of variables in place. One of the big issues that we've run into right now is that we need to put in charging stations at the public safety building, but until the decision has been made on what to do with that building, we're kind of at a standstill. We need to do some major electric upgrades in order to put in charging stations there. And we're still waiting to understand kind of what the long-term future is with that building before deciding what to do. So, looking for 2023, we have allocated for charging stations about $100,000, and that's a pretty high number, in part because we're anticipating possibly using some of that funding for a fast charging station. We also included that in kind of some of our requests to the federal government for some funding that would maybe offset that if we were able to get it. So we haven't decided to go in that direction. We're waiting to hear what we get from the federal government. But if I had to guess, it would probably be in the range of, maybe 6 to 10 stations next year, which includes upgrading of our existing stations. And I'll say that right now, all of our charging stations are strictly for our own vehicles. We don't offer any public charging, and unless we go the fast charging route, we're unlikely to at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I know with the price of gas going up, it also helps financially buffer the cost. I know for my electric car that the price is it's gone up from $5 to maybe, I'm estimating $10 to charge it fully at home, but if I filled it up with gas, it would be $75. So I'm trying not to complain about the $10 price on that.
And Annie, on that note, we're somewhat insulated right now from electricity prices rising because we do have locked in contracts right now. So we are still paying the same price that we were paying 2 years ago for electricity. So we are seeing significant savings over gas.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll bring down an extension cord next time I come down here to the legislature. Just need to go through a window in your office if you could open that. Let's see. So we took a lot of time with that one.
Hello?
I know people had a lot of questions. Oh, sorry, Henry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, what's the, you talked about how you had vehicles from 2008 or whatever. What's the time frame that you expect to resell vehicles that you purchase now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're using two different metrics. So one is mileage based. Our understanding and talking with Highway and the Sheriff's Department and the airport, which are three departments that have done really well with reselling vehicles, is that once you go over 100,000 miles, you typically start to see a pretty precipitous drop in the resale value of the vehicle. So that's one metric that we're looking at. The other metric is time. And so we're not trying to hold on to vehicles any longer than basically 5 years, because at that point, a lot of the new model years are coming out. And that's also when you start to see not new model years, but new vehicle models coming out. And so that also is when you typically see a drop in vehicle value as well. So that's kind of our goal, is 100,000 miles or 5 years. Most departments, it'll be that 5-year value. Departments like the Sheriff's Department that are driving 35, 40,000 miles a year, that's probably going to be a lot quicker in terms of replacement times.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Terry. All right, we're
Sure.
ready, Bridget, for the next one.
Sure, I see Darby has joined us. Hi, Darby. So on packet page 13, we'll jump back to the Aquafire Study program. Would you like to
Right.
speak about Darby? Thank you.
Yeah, happy to take that over. We're winding down on a 20-year capital program with these aquifer studies that have been done across the county. Our description includes a list of the 6 previously completed aquifer studies. And right now we're in the middle of a 4-year contract with USGS to do this work. So this is a larger $80,000. Our part of it is $80,000 is our 35% share, but then the town of Dryden is also contributing, and then the USGS makes up the rest of the contributions to this over $200,000 project. And so our values have been winding down through the 4 years of the contract. So we'll just be looking to expend a little over $19,000 in 2023 and $88.50 in 2024.
Okay, thank you. And this helps us look at when we're coming up on budget season to see some of the amounts that will be requested for the different projects. Any questions? I just had one of your background. Is that Montezuma?
No, it's in our backyard, but I am in the office. I am not hovering around a heron rookery.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, thank you, Darby.
Great, thanks.
Next one, Bridget.
Sure. So the final one, I believe, for our planning department is on packet page 17, and that is the natural infrastructure. Katie, do you or somebody else from your team want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I'll let Joan take it away on this one.
Good afternoon, everybody. Use the capital infrastructure program. As projects come in, they are individually approved by the legislature. So some of you have seen all or at least some of these projects in the past. So far, the capital projects committed funding for 9 acquisition projects since 2017. They're located all over the county in 5 different towns. And with all the ones that have been committed, that would lead to the protection of 1,352 acres of land. And the county's commitment to funding for those projects has been $338,000, and for some reason, $50 odd. The current uncommitted fund balance, including the 2022 fund contribution, is approximately $900,000. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Anybody have any questions for Joan? Deborah?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I noticed that we're committing to $200,000 a year for the foreseeable future to this fund. And how much did you say is already in it? Something like $900,000?
It's approximately what's left in the balance when you count this year's contribution.
And what did we start with at the beginning? Well, as of this year, counting this year's contribution.
Oh, at the beginning of this year or?
Well,
counting this year?
yeah, you can, at the beginning of this year, what did we have?
Okay, hang on. I need to just open a little different spreadsheet here.
That's okay.
That's okay. We had at the beginning of this year, $654,000. Call it 655.
Okay.
I think.
And
Oh, yeah,
how did
that's
we
right.
get to 900? I'm so confused. Okay.
It's an odd number because when this project was started, there were some funds left over and some other pots of money that the department had that were committed to the same type of funding. So there used to be a capital reserve fund for protection of scenic and natural resources. The money that was left into that was also rolled into this fund.
Okay.
And early on in the process, this fund was also eligible to fund, these funds were eligible to fund projects like rain gardens, very small rain gardens and things like that. And so some of those were paid out of this. That's why there's some odd figures in our list of projects. But the ones that were actually committed to funding acquisition projects are the 9 I talked about. I left out some of the smaller non-acquisition projects.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Joan? Thank you, Joan.
Welcome.
Okay, Bridget, what do we have next?
Okay, the remaining 2 par forms are from Recycling and Materials Management. I think I saw Leo here.
Yes, Leo's here.
Great. So the first one is regarding infrastructure. Leo, did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, I can do that.
That's packet page 19.
Yeah, so it might be beneficial if I could just kind of explain real quick how we do our planning and where our list comes from. We start with a building and site conditions assessment report. That was first done a number of years back. So we update that annually with different assessments. But included in that assessment condition assessment would be all your buildings at the Recycling Solid Waste Center. So we got the main building over there. We've got the household hazardous waste building, transfer station of food scraps, building, a number of drop-off areas. So those are the different buildings that we're assessing. The things that we look at in those areas are from the construction point of view, everything from the roof to doors and overhead doors and ceilings, tip floors, concrete. We look at all the mechanicals and assess those. They could be the sprinkler systems, fire and security alarm systems. We have HVAC that's always assessed. And then we have equipment that we assess, which the county owns, and it could be a lot of the stationary equipment like the baler and the compactor that we have. So that's kind of how we do our planning, is off this condition assessment report. That goes into some planning for future years. So we have a list for 0 to 5 years, 6 years to 10, 11 to 15, and so on. That's where we get started. That's how we start off. We have 2 separate projects. One we started this year that I'll get to next, I believe, but the current one is the Rswc Upgrades for 2021 through 2025. What's included in this one for 2023 would be some upgrades to the facility entrance, the vestibule, the facility offices over at the Recycling Solid Waste Center, looking at replacing some of the flooring and ceiling. We've got some old roof ventilators that we took out of service, but we haven't removed those from the roof. We want to get those taken care of. Overhead door replacement, some sprinkler system upgrades. In 2023, it's really like a number of small projects, if you will, or tasks in this project. Can I answer any questions on that project?
Okay. Any questions for Leo on this? I had one question. So for budgeting purposes, does this come out of your budget there? Or is this something different separate you're requesting from?
So in this project, we do have some money coming out of the equipment reserve. We have a balance, it looks like, in our capital fund. And we will be, I believe, banding and bonding a little over $1 million on this project. And if Norma's there, she might be able to correct me on that if I'm wrong, but that's what I believe we're doing.
Sure.
So this got a little bit confusing because this was a larger project that's been divided into 2. So you'll notice that the PAR forms both have the same number at the top. The first one that's labeled RSWC Infrastructure-ARP, that is being funded by ARPA funds. So that will not have any bonding. That's all going to be covered by surplus funds in the enterprise fund as well as the ARPA funds. And those are distinct and separate projects that are eligible for that. And then the second one, I think that Leo was talking about bonding for is the second one that doesn't have a project number yet. We're waiting for that. And that's the Rswc Upgrades 2021 through 2025. I think that might be what you wanted me to add in, Leo.
Yes, thank you. It is confusing. Thank you for helping me straighten that out, Norma.
Thank you. And the ARPA funds, is that funds they receive directly, or is that the ones that we reserved here for capital projects?
Those are the ones from the capital project that we're administering from administration. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Randy?
Yes, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to mention that Veronica and I met with Leo and Jeremy a few weeks ago to a complete tour of the facility, and it's easy to understand what you're talking about, Leo, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great having you guys, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you. Leo, would you like to do the next one, packet page 20, the upgrades 2021 through 2025?
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, so what's left in there was projects that we didn't put into the ARPA funding. So what we want to do there is in 2023, we want to reconstruct the yard waste area and a refurbishment of the scrap metal area. That whole area has deteriorated over the years, the push walls, and we want to kind of incorporate the yard waste into the food scraps and kind of keep an organics area, if you will. It'll minimize a lot of the activity where it's currently at and clean things up a little bit in that area, I guess. The other thing that we want to do, which is a fairly good sized project, is some work on the truck scales and the scale pits. The truck scales, we've got 2 inbound, outbound. They actually sit almost like a picture of foundation of a house, if you will. And we need to do some repairs to the foundation of those scale pits. And that's a fairly large project. The scale generator was taken out by a storm recently, not this past weekend, but a little while back. So we want to put in for a new scale house generator. And then also we want to do an assessment on the facility perimeter fencing to make sure everything's secure.
Thanks, Leo. Any questions for Leo? Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you very much, Leo.
Okay, thank you.
And Bridget and Norma, I think that's all 5 of them.
That's all from us. Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
No further report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So no other report from administration at this time?
Correct.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys coming to our meeting today. Okay, we're on schedule. That's great. Now also, Leo, there's a capital payment summary. Was there anything you wanted to say about that, or do you want to just open it up and see if there was any questions on it?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we do have one submitted for the pavement that is completed to date. There will be, I believe there'll be one more later down the road as a final payment. But yeah, this one payment's done. We're just waiting on some punch list items and some additional pavement markings.
Okay, great. That's back at page 22. Any questions from anybody? All right, Leo, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Let's see, next we have from our Department of Planning and Sustainability. Katie, do you have any, we have our commissioner here, Katie Bergella. Do you have any report for us?
Yeah, great. Hi, everybody. Nice to see folks. I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to introduce our 2 new staff people to the committee. We've got with us Haley Delisle. Haley, would you like to turn on your video and introduce yourself to the group? Haley's our new sustainability coordinator.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all virtually. I am, as Katie mentioned, the new sustainability coordinator. I did my education over at Binghamton University, undergrad in environmental planning, environmental studies with a concentration in environmental planning. And then I did my graduate work in sustainable communities. And then for the past few years, I've been working on community education campaigns around solar, heat pumps, energy efficiency. I'm sure you've heard of Solarize or Heat Smart. Similar campaigns just over in Broome County, more east of here. Let's see, what else? With the county, I'll be focused on kind of the external side of the energy strategy. And with that, kind of reinvigorating the Business Energy Advisors program. So any new development or major renovation that you think could benefit from that program, I'm happy to be connected with. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
Thanks, Haley.
Yeah, we're awfully excited to have Haley joining us. And I understand that our second employee is having a little hard time connecting to the Zoom. So I will give you the other part of my update while we have her connect, which is that I wanted to let people know that the department on June 29th submitted comments on the draft disadvantaged communities criteria for the CLCPA, the state's climate law. It is very technical and in the weeds about census numbers and blocks versus tracts and various double counting of criteria and expansion of criteria. But I did want to let you all know that we had taken a close look at those criteria and provided substantive comments on those to the state as they develop the details of the programming. So the other staff person I'd like to introduce you to is Abigail Connor. Abigail, if you'd like to put on your video, great. Abigail is the new environmental planner in our department. So would you like to say a few words about yourself, Abigail?
Sure. Thanks, Katie. Hi, all. Good to see you. I'm coming from the Boston area. I just completed a master's in urban planning and community development with the University of Massachusetts, Boston. And that was with an environmental planning concentration. And while doing that, I was working full time doing some intense project management with a youth development organization. But this is it's great to be here in Ithaca. It's a coming home for me. I grew up in Green, New York, so not too far from here. But in that youth development job, I manage operations and logistics for a middle school aged camp for disadvantaged kids, busing over 1,000 kids in and out of their communities daily. But in my program at the same time, I was working with ArcGIS Online, helping present historical and present day data in an accessible manner, which is something that I really enjoy to do. And right now I'm focused on the Resiliency and Recovery Plan, 239 reviews, and the agriculture conservation easements. And I'm just excited to be with the county to get a chance to work on big picture items.
I will add that Abigail had to move 1,000 children both through subway, bus, and ferry to get out to an island in the Boston Harbor. So it was a lot of logistics that she managed.
Wow, I hope she was able to get them back again, but maybe that's a story for another day. Right?
Every single one. No questions for a future day.
No one left behind. Good. Randy?
Yes, I just want to say that we're scheduling a time to meet with Katie and all of the new recruits. And I want to let everybody know that in August, and I'll be sending out some dates shortly.
Great. Thanks, Randy. And I'm glad I was included in that email, and feel free, or I just would suggest that if you could, when you figure out the date, if you could send it to all the legislators, especially the ones here for this committee, I'd appreciate that so we can learn more about them. I just wanted to add one more thing. Well, I'll wait till your report is done, Katie. Was there more?
Nope, that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay, we're quite a bit, I hesitate to say this, I'll knock on wood, a little bit ahead of schedule. And with Abigail and is Haley still here? Yeah, with them still here. What I wanted to do, if they wanted to listen in, what I've been in quite a few other meetings where some more of advisory boards where Abigail and Haley talked about themselves, and then the groups went around and talked about themselves also, the members. So I'm going to put our committee members on the spot. I'll start out, 30 seconds to a minute, just to help give them some reference too of, the type of things that you're interested in that this committee deals with, or some of the things that they talked about. So I'll start out. Prior to being a legislator, I was the chair of the Finger Lakes Sierra Club. Also was on the Black Oak Wind Farm board. We tried to have a 7 turbine wind farm in the town of Enfield. And I've done some other, worked on some other environmental things, trying to stop fracking in this area in New York State also. So would somebody else like to go next? I'll call on people. Greg?
Sure, yeah, I'll go next. Abigail, Haley, so nice to meet you. Looking forward to working with you. I'm Greg Mezey. This is my first term on the legislature. I'm vice chair of the committee. As a first term legislator, really just kind of open to all different things. Pretty passionate about planning, tourism, economic development. Abigail, you mentioned some of the big picture stuff. Really gets me excited too. So looking forward to working with you both, looking forward to strengthening the work of our committee and glad you're here. So, happy to answer any more questions about myself, but that's my little elevator pitch, I guess.
Thanks. Deborah.
Yeah, I stopped by DPS a couple weeks ago and got to meet Abigail and Haley in person. I'm glad to see you both. My history is 30 to 35 years of litigation and litigation management. I tend to be contentious, but it's okay, I don't bite. When I started on the legislature, I was on PDAC as a committee member. Then we split it between housing and economic development and planning and environmental quality. And I chaired that peak committee for a couple of years, during which time I was directly involved in shifting the focus of our county energy plan to a more internal one. I was also involved in getting funding for Terry Carroll's position, and we're thrilled to have Terry. Y'all are very lucky to be working with him. And I was also directly involved in the creation of the Climate and Sustainable Energy Advisory Board. And I do these things because I have grandchildren and I shudder to think what kind of world they're going to live in. So do your work, ladies. And I guess I'll turn it over to Randy.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Abigail and Haley. Randy Brown, District 2, which is Enfield, about half of Enfield and Newfield. I'm a new legislator with Greg. I'm very interested in the recovery resiliency plan, so I'm looking forward to where that's going to go. I did spend over 8 years on a local planning board, so I know some of that world. I've been in business my whole life, from banking to recycling systems. So I've got a pretty broad range of things that I've been involved in. I really like planning. I'm really interested in rural planning, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Henry?
Yes, I'm Henry Granison. I'm from the 3rd District, which is a city district. Let me see, I was a lawyer in practice for a while. I graduated from law school here. I practiced for a number of years, both in and out of the state. When the PDAC and other committees split, I went on the other side. So this is my first time really dealing with environmental stuff. So I'm really interested in everything you do. I'm more on the tourism, economic development side. But again, I'm really interested in also what you are planning.
Thanks, everybody. One thing I forgot to mention, that I also was a home inspector for 16 years, and I really got to see firsthand, issues with affordability, not just people buying houses, but maintaining them and looking at how they can make their homes more energy efficient, and also seeing over the course of that many years, the differences in moisture issues, water management on properties, people that didn't have mold have mold now. Wells that were sufficed before, people are having trouble with water. So that gave me a lot of good background to seeing that. So thanks everybody for letting me put you on the spot for that and helping get to know. And again, big welcome to Abigail and Haley. And so next from the Planning Department, Sustainability Marketing Update. Is that Terry?
That's me.
All righty, Terry, take it away.
Yeah, so thanks for letting us join today. So Dominic Recchio, our communications director, is joining us because he's been really helping to spearhead this. So I'll set him up a little bit. You know, the county is doing some really fantastic stuff when it comes to sustainability. And we talked a little bit earlier about the Green Fleet Capital Fund, which is a really innovative thing that Tompkins County has started to do. We have, you know, right now over 35 vehicles that are electrified in some way within our county fleet. You know, we're working on a fantastic green facilities program that's going to help us really drastically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. But unfortunately, you know, outside of the folks probably on this Zoom chat and some of the other legislators, not many other people know about it. And so something that we've thought about for a while is, you know, while we're doing a good job of taking steps towards sustainability and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the one area that we could do a lot better is in making sure that other people know it. And I think it's important not only that they know it because it'll help them understand where their tax dollars are going, which is obviously important, but we also see the role of government is really a leadership role and in showing what's possible. And so if, you know, you see your government driving around an electric vehicle, does that build your own trust in it? You know, see if you see a government building that you go into running a geothermal system or switching over to heat pumps, does that give you the confidence that you need to make that switch yourself? And so that's really what we're trying to do, you know, in the upcoming, you know, weeks, months, and years, is really tell the story of what the county is doing and show what's possible, and really, you know, have people understand that, you know, we're really trying to do some innovative things, some, you know, really trying to take some important steps, and we'd love to bring the community along with us. And so I'll turn it over here to Dominic, who's going to show some of the ways that we plan on doing this, and then we can, you know, answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Terry. And I've been really fortunate to work with you on this so far. I have learned a lot, both about what the county is doing and about the impact of some of these areas. So I'm going to quickly walk through just some, these aren't really slides, just designs of how we're sort of planning to brand out sustainability and some of the progress that we've made so far. So we used the new county branding guidelines to put together a mark that will represent all of the different efforts that we're doing under planning or under the sustainability programming and our green efforts. This particular mark is a simplified version that you'll see in a second, has been adapted to each of the different program areas underneath sustainability efforts at Tompkins County. So in areas where we're talking about renewable electricity, this mark may show up. The adaptation and resiliency planning, the green fleet facilities, and then the business energy advisors program. And you can see the lightning bolt is the thing that carries through as its electrification of most of these things. There's a couple of different ways that each of them show up. So that it can be used in different ways, and then some larger versions here. I'll just click through quickly to show you some of the other examples we've come up with. So you may have seen around our HVAC van, the transit that Terry was talking about earlier. I actually just saw it. I biked over to the mental health building and saw it outside there today, and it looks really great. Here's a photo of that van that's been wrapped with the green fleet branding that you just saw and some messaging that says it's electric. Your county is going green and you can too. And then as a part of all the branding that we're doing, especially on the vehicles, because they're so visible, we're encouraging the community to quote unquote be a part of our sustainable future. And there's a couple of ways they can do that. They can visit a URL, or they can text green to this phone number here. This uses our Gov delivery, the same thing with the email newsletters that you get. So you can text green to 888-716-2456. And then every month from Tompkins County, you'll get a text message just with a way you can be more sustainable in your own life, or updates on what's going on at Tompkins County. So we've had over a dozen people sign up for that so far with just a little bit of effort on one car and in an email. So I hope that as we have it on more vehicles in different places, we'll get more people to sign up. On the other side of this vehicle, it says green means, and then it has a list of what it means to go green. So less pollution, local self-reliance, using renewable sources of energy, other things like that. You can see here are the Office for the Aging. I think if I can zoom in, you can see it a little bit closer. Office for the Aging's Mustang Mach-E, which is sometimes parked outside, right outside between our buildings here. And this will have the same sort of messaging on the vehicle. And on the back of each of them, it'll say emissions-free vehicle, because that's a part of the sustainability effort of it. And then here you can see, and also there'll be a bigger copy of this in a moment, but some bumper stickers that we've put together that'll be on our vehicles, but then shared out with community members as well, that says, in Tompkins County, green is gorgeous. It's a mural at the Science Center behind that lettering, again, with the URL people can go to for our sustainability webpage. So we're really excited about having this on all the different vehicles, and we're wrapping as many as we can within the budget we have this year, focusing on some of the ones that'll be most visible in the community. The next effort to follow this will hopefully be some signage on buildings and on some of our electric infrastructure. So this is a slightly crude example of, and it's obviously on a charging port and it's referencing a building, but the concept here is that on our green infrastructure, whether that's on a building, whether that's on a charging port, a solar array, et cetera, there would be signage that will say, this particular building in this case does these things, it saves the county taxpayer this much dollars, and it'll have that same information about learning more or texting in to get more updates. And this is just a sample of how it may be attached, affixed to some of our infrastructure. And then as appropriate and when it fits, like on those bumper stickers, which are available for all the legislators. I think Terry put them in your mailboxes or in legislature chambers somewhere to grab. We wanted to use the Ithaca is gorgeous and sort of expand on that concept and say, in Tompkins County, green is gorgeous. So this is just the start of our efforts to sort of tell people what we're doing. We have all these great vehicles and all these buildings that are constantly adapting, and people see construction happening in our facilities and planning departments around. So hopefully these efforts will help tell that story better and then encourage the community to do similar efforts to what the county's doing.
Yeah, and just to add on, so Dominic is also doing a great job with sending out newsletter updates. There was one just the other day on our transit fleet, on our e-transit, and talking a little bit about what we're doing with our green fleet. Haley, who we were introduced to a little bit earlier, she's doing some work on our website that'll be rolled out hopefully in the upcoming weeks, that'll start to provide more and more information. And then Rob Henry, who's also on this Zoom, our new media production guy, he's going to be working with us to do some videos, that'll really tell the story about some of our different sustainability efforts. So we're really excited. We're hopeful that you'll see some of our efforts, come to fruition as we, move forward on some of these things. And yeah, I think we're happy to answer any questions right now.
Greg and then Deborah.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I mean, Terry, Dominic, whoever, I'm assuming a lot of the branding stuff is Dominic. I mean, this is great. That kind of messaging, I love tying it back to how it saves, right? How this is doing the right thing, but it also, there's benefit to doing that in addition to, the benefit for the good of the world and mankind and, longevity of our civilization. So always will sing your praise. So keep up the great work. This is absolutely fantastic. And I think this is really smart and very, I think this is taking Tompkins County into the era that it should be in. And so I think we are going absolutely in the right direction. So great work.
Thanks, Greg.
Deborah?
What Greg said. Yeah, I agree. It's very important that people understand not only what we're doing, but why we're doing it, and how it's going to benefit them. So I really appreciate you guys taking the lead on this issue and moving forward.
Thanks, Deborah. Katie?
I was just going to add that thanks to the legislature, because really it's through funding Terry's position and Haley's position. And Haley has some great ideas for how to bring some of this messaging to TikTok and, you know, some more relevant to our youth, which I think is super important as well for getting the message out there. So thanks to all of you.
Well, I am very proud of this program, and I remember thinking back when it was first starting and we were getting our first electric vehicle that, geez, if people knew what we're doing, you know, just to be a great role model. And, you know, as Terry said, you know, being a great role model, talking to people about this is how your county funds are being spent. And I really applaud, you know, the work that Terry and Dominic have done. I really like all the branding. I like how you're just creative, you're doing a theme throughout it. So it looks like this is going to eventually be on all electric vehicles, or just some of them, the ones that we have?
It probably won't be on all of them, but we're really, like Dominic said, trying to target some of the ones that get seen the most, that are going out into the community, that are going to be pretty widespread. And we're also working with departments. There's some vehicles that we don't want to, you know, have branded undercover vehicles, some of the social service vehicles, you know, that would prefer to be a little bit more subtle. So we're trying to be cognizant of that and trying to respect the department wishes. But the departments that want to have their vehicle branded and see that opportunity to also carry forth their message, we're really working with them to target those first.
Great. I can't wait to tell my father-in-law, who I'm trying to talk into going down to the Office for the Aging to talk to them about what services they have, because he's in his 80s and he doesn't watch this meeting. So I think I can pretty safely say he just fell 3 times in the past month, and I'm trying to connect him with the Office for the Aging. And so he loves electric vehicles. I'm excited to tell them, you know, that maybe he can go down and see their Mach-E, Mustang Mach-E. That's pretty cool. And so one question regarding how many, do you have a sense of how many, or, you know, how other counties are doing similar things across the New York State?
Yeah, I mean, we know, I talk with colleagues in other counties that are buying electric vehicles, that are doing some work on their buildings. You know, I don't know that any are going to the same extent that we are. You know, we've fielded a lot of questions from others that want to see our green fleet policy that you all passed earlier this year and use that as a model. You know, we get a lot of questions over how we have done things with the Green Fleet Capital Fund, or what it looks like, or what we're doing with our buildings. So, you know, we know others are trying to learn about these things. You know, in terms of the branding efforts, you know, I'm unaware of other communities that are maybe going to the same level that we are, especially with the car branding. So again, we're trying to be on the forefront of this, is not only for our community, but hopefully for some others as well.
I'm hoping you can, you or we can put pressure on NISAC, the New York State Association of Counties, because still where they're holding their venue for their meetings, at least for the one in Albany, there's no place to charge our vehicles. So maybe we can help put pressure on the venues and where people have meetings. The last question I have is regarding the airport. Are there any plans to do any more marketing because of all the great things that have been done, you know, with the geothermal and other things up at that building?
Yeah, it's actually a great point, Annie, and that's something that we probably should talk a little bit more with Roxanne and her team about. You know, they've done some incredible stuff. The geothermal system that's at the airport is pretty amazing. Rob Henry and I are actually trying to get out there to take some photos and videos of it. And so maybe once we get some of that media base kind of put together, some of those pictures, we can, you know, either do a newsletter or do some other stuff and really try and get the word out about what's been done there as well.
And one last comment, one idea I floated back when we had a different director up there was that if we could also, in addition to, you know, lauding the great things we were doing up there, would be to somehow, put some branding or information up there so that, because there's local environmental agencies where people can offset their trip, which I have often done. So while people are sitting in the waiting room, they could just go on there and then do something to offset the greenhouse gas effects of their flight.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I know like the climate fund, Finger Lakes Climate Fund, and some of those other options that are available now.
Right.
So we can certainly talk with the folks up there and see if there's something we can put together.
Well, great. And also just what Greg said. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Al.
Deborah?
Yeah, I hate to be a buzzkill here, but you all on this committee to remember how proud you are of this program and the entire green facilities program, because come budget time, you're going to find out that a key piece of our plan, which is the geothermal for the downtown campus, has gone up in cost pretty astronomically. And we're going to have to suck it up and pay for it. And that may limit what we can do in other areas. So hold on to your pride and your commitment to greening our facilities and our fleet, and be prepared to put your money where your mouth is. Sorry.
Needed to be said. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, any other questions before we move on to the next thing? Well, thanks, Terry and Dominic. And next we have a resolution accepting the Tompkins County Resiliency and Recovery Plan, and that's on packet page 26. Could I have somebody move that? Deborah, seconded by, it was close, Greg. Okay, and Darby, are you here to talk to us about that?
I am here for that. Yeah, thanks. As you've been hearing about for the last couple of years, we are trying to address these climate change issues with this hazard mitigation planning effort and now the resiliency and recovery plan. And so the culmination of multiple years and many planning documents all fit together in this resiliency and recovery plan. So as we have a brief resolution for this, but then we expand a little bit more in the memo, which is on packet pages 27 through 29. And so I'm going to just give a quick update on all of those pieces. And after Scott Doyle was here at the May meeting, we did follow up with Deborah and Shauna and decided that we just do a really quick update at this meeting. And then there'll be a longer presentation at the legislature meeting on August 2nd. So we do have our consultant Cynthia from Tetra Tech is here if there are any questions that we want to have answered today in advance of that. And so what I'll cover right now, I'll weave in some of the public information and public outreach we've been doing as part of this whole resiliency and recovery plan effort. And I first want to highlight that there was a pretty important public meeting on May 18th that I think a number of you had participated on. So that's still, we have that on the website. I've gone back and looked and there have been a number of views of that. So that's really exciting that people have tuned into that. But just kind of going through what all these components are, and it's hard to visualize now, but we're very close to having what's called our interactive story map, or it's an online interface where all of the planning documents or all of these resources will be available, and there's some interactive maps. So we will do a presentation on that at the August 2nd meeting. So more to come on that, and it's like it pulls it all together, and it's very exciting to see it in one place. But just so you know, like that includes the hazard mitigation plan that was adopted by this group back in, I think it was September of 2021. And there was a lot of outreach done as part of that. And I was going back and reviewing that. There were citizen surveys, surveys of stakeholders that included law enforcement, firefighters, highway departments, and even our neighboring counties. We asked them questions about hazard mitigation. And then there were quite a few steering committee meetings planning partnerships, risk assessment workshops, and there were also presentations at a number of our advisory board meetings, the Planning Advisory Board, the EMC, and then the presentations that were also done at your predecessor committee, the PEAK committee, back in March of, so this is 2021. And then the September is when it was adopted. So just kind of wanted to give a sense for the newer members, Greg and Randy, of kind of the baseline of public outreach that was done as part of the hazard mitigation plan. And then meanwhile, we also had grant funding from Department of State to do this resiliency and recovery plan. And so as the memo outlines, there's topics on drought, debris management, flood resources, and then economic recovery resources. And I think Scott has covered most of that in previous meetings, but highlighting that, the economic recovery pieces included business continuity of operations training. And so for business and for local governments, and those were held in the spring. And so that includes a training resource, but then also some templates for both businesses and local governments to consider. And then there's also a lot of work done in a messaging playbook, which we are finalizing at this moment, that will prepare us for work we'll do in advance of a disaster, and then how do we deal with disaster messaging when it happens. And so that outlines those steps in that process. And that just, I guess the other important thing to note is that all of these plans have more actions associated with them. So it's, we're completing a planning process, but there's more to come. There's a lot of actions identified in each of these plans. And I think it comes together in about, it depends on what version you look at, but it's almost like 20 pages of actions to move forward. And some of those are our department, other departments within the county, and then local governments, and what can we do to make these resiliency and economic recovery plans come to life, and how can we be really prepared for what comes into the future. So with that, I'll just see if there are questions or any clarifications you want, either on the memo or the resolution.
Any questions or comments? I wanted to thank you for continuing the work on this. I know it's multi-year that you and other staff have been working on this, Darby. And as you said, there's still a lot more to be done, but it's huge in its scope. So it totally makes sense. For me, sometimes I get impatient, like, okay, let's just do the things, but it's so multifaceted, and thank you for making it digestible in every way, whether it's presentation or in the writing. Randy, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Darby. Yes, the write-up helped me too. So Darby, are you the point person now for this program, or?
I'm getting this part of it across the finish line.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll jump in on that, Randy. That actually is going to be Abigail's work as she settles in and gets to know the county processes. I will say Abigail already has been tremendously helpful. She's been pulling things together into PDFs and rewriting our website to make it more user-friendly. So Darby is kind of the lead on pushing this through for the last gasp to close out all of these contracts. And then Abigail will be charged with moving forward the recommendations within the plan.
Great, thank you, thank you. And Abigail, I'll get to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just was, Annie, I was wondering, could we just ask Cynthia from Tetra Tech to introduce herself? She's been working on this for 3 solid years, and she'll be giving the presentation to the legislature. So I wanted her to be able to just say hello to the committee.
Sure.
Cynthia?
Hi there. Looks like I can't start my video, so I guess I'll be a mystery for now, but I hope you can hear me. I am really honored to be a part of this project. As Katie said, we've been really working on this for a solid 3 years. It started with the hazard mitigation plan, which was expedited so that you could have an approved plan by the end of 2021 to enable the county and communities to be eligible for the literally billions of dollars of the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities funds through FEMA. So having an approved hazard mitigation plan is a requirement to be eligible for those funds. So I'm happy to say we were able to do that, worked with the county and every single community. Actually, planning department was extremely involved and worked with individual communities to really help them understand what kind of projects make sense and what kind of projects could be implemented and funded, through hazard mitigation funds. And then because morphing over to the bigger resilience plan has been very interesting, working again very closely with the county and stakeholders. And right now, if you go to the climate adaptation website of the county, you will be able to click on a PDF of this entire plan, which is about 600 pages, and that's excluding the hazard mitigation plan. So if you include the hazard mitigation plan, all the work we've done is probably almost 3,000 pages of work, which is one reason why we're so happy that we were able to develop this interactive story map, which should be going live, I think, tomorrow. So it enables people to click through and to be able to take a deeper dive in what they're interested in and look at facts and figures, or to scan across all of the components. And what we're really proud about, and what really is unique to Tompkins County, as opposed to the other handful of counties that were funded to do resilience plans, is that this plan is leaving behind some quantitative toolkits to help communities and to help businesses become more resilient. So Darby had mentioned, we have videos and we have a template for continuity of operation plans that municipal governments and businesses can refer to in really helping prepare, it before the next disaster. Because let's face it, once there's a disaster, everyone wants to just, quickly get back on their feet, and then they're not going to be building resiliently, right? So you have to put all that, forethought in before the disaster. And that's one of the, major outcomes of this plan, is that it provides a very strong foundation for being prepared for the next disaster. So I think that's all I have to say. I'm really, like I said, I was excited to hear what you're doing. And I think that there's a real synergy between our plan and all of the sustainable work you're doing. And I'm really happy. I'll be happy to continue to be available to Abigail if she has any questions. It's a lot of information. And I guess if you see the story map and click through it, you'll see why it makes sense to have sort of an online plan to increase the accessibility. Also understanding whoever wants to click on the PDFs can print them out, and read through for their bedtime reading. So.
All 3,000 pages?
Yeah, there you go. So any questions, I'm happy to answer about the different components.
Any questions for Cynthia? Well, Cynthia, thank you for talking with us today. And it sounds like, excuse me, you'll be a part of the presentation at the legislature meeting. Is it August 2nd?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great. And then hopefully we'll have your video be able to be on. And I just had a question. I'm not sure to who, but when that interactive part goes live tomorrow, can an email be sent to the legislators so we can start looking through that? Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, and we have a resolution still on the floor, so we're ready to vote on that. That's accepting the Tompkins County Resiliency and Recovery Plan. All righty, so I'm going to go through the roll call again. Greg?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So finally, all righty, finally we got that accepted. Thank you. Another step in working on that. Well, thank you everybody from that, on those issues. And then also we're going to turn now to tourism program budget. And let's see, is that going to be Nick that's going to help us with that?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm currently driving. I had to pick up my son from daycare. I planned to get him home before the 3 o'clock time posted on the agenda. And you're 15 minutes out of schedule. But I'll do as best I can from what I can recall. Yeah, we're tourism budget for 2023 is attached in your packet. This is.
Can I interrupt, please? I'm sorry, Nick, but I'm wondering, maybe we could start off with, I see that Peggy Coleman's on. Maybe we could start, I don't know, Annie, if it's possible to juggle, but it seems like the tourism budget deserves as much focused attention as we can get.
Right. So that's what I was just looking at. If there's something else. So if, so Nick, why don't you hold off for a few minutes? And we have Peggy here, as Katie said, Peggy Coleman. So to talk about, we have I think she can help us with the resolution designating, or let's see, is that what you're talking about, the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have
The tourism, yeah.
right. So we have a resolution. Let me get the packet page on that. If anybody has it, feel free to tell me. I think that's after the budget.
It's page 53 in the packet, the resolution.
Thank you, Peggy. So I'm going to get that on the floor and then we can talk about it. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So this is designation of tourism promotion agency for state. And would someone like to move that? Greg, seconded by Deborah. And Peggy, this is it a yearly thing, I think?
It is. The tourism matching grants, it's part of the aid to localities legislation and funds that come from the state budget. As a requirement, every county is required to get a new resolution each year naming the tourism promotion agency as the official tourism promotion agency for the county or municipality which they represent. And in our budget, the matching funds is typically anywhere from 50,000 up to 70,000, give or take a few. And it does require a dollar for dollar match, and that local match is included in the overall room tax request for investment to the CVB.
Okay, any questions? It's pretty routine. Okay, why don't we take over?
Randy has a question, Annie.
Oh, thanks. Randy?
Yes, just I have no idea about this program. So your total budget is 3 million, and $1.5 million comes from room tax. Is that what that means?
What the resolution now is related to the designation of the official tourism promotion agency on behalf of Tompkins County to be able to apply for those funds. So, I'm sorry, am I freezing? I may have.
No, you're good, Peggy. Does that, I think Randy might be freezing a little bit. Randy, were you able to hear that? I think Randy is frozen. So I'm not sure what he meant.
Yeah, Annie, it sounded like he was asking about budget numbers, which I think is something that Nick will be addressing once he's back from picking up his son.
Right.
I certainly can answer that, but I don't want to get out of my lane, so to speak.
Sure. Well, while we're Well, let's see, I think we lost Randy altogether. Well, while we're waiting for him to come back in, one thing I just wanted to mention, Peggy, I know when you came back some months back, when we were really pressed for time when you were giving your report. I don't know if this is possible, but it seems like, over the summer months, we seem to have more time in our, at least this year, in our PDEC schedule. So I don't know if it's possible to move that to a different month, that where you might be able to have more time. I mean, I know you draw up your stuff, all, but just something to keep in mind that we seem to have more time in our schedule in the summer. If
I'm delighted to come and chat with you whenever the opportunity arises, Annie. So you tell me what works best for you and we'll make it happen.
Okay, great. Thanks, Peggy. And see, Randy came back.
Well,
Randy must have had internet problems.
We've lost power a couple times. We just got it back a few hours ago, so we were out for a day. And something's wrong with the Wi-Fi now, so I apologize. But my question was, you mentioned dollar per dollar, is the room tax $1.5 million roughly? Is that the $1 the county contributes? Is that how that works?
So Nick will address the whole tourism program budget and how the room tax is allocated. But out of the line that is listed for the Tompkins County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Randy, for your benefit, we brand ourselves outwardly as Visit Ithaca, but we are the Ithaca Tompkins County Convention and Visitors Bureau, a division of the Tompkins Chamber. So in that big budget section there, a portion of that. This year, we have applied for, based on the amount in the state budget, the grant may be up to $70,000. It's likely to be closer to, I think, 52,500, give or take. I've got it in my, actually, Nick may have put that in the document. I'm trying to pull my budget.
We can wait for Nick if that's
okay.
Where he's gonna
but basically that amount that I've included, actually I can tell you $54,072 is based on the amount that the state has in their budget. Of that, the total of number, that's where that money would come from to match the state's grant.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this one? Okay. All right, so we're going to vote on the designation of tourism promotion agency for the state. And we're going to go in the same order again. Greg?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously. Nick, I was just going to see if folks want to take a 5-minute break, but I see you're home. Do you need are you okay? Sorry to rush you.
Yeah, I'm okay. I can do this.
Okay.
Closing my phone up.
You need to go run back out and close your car door, or
so yeah.
bring the baby in.
Can everybody hear me?
The children are in the house.
I don't seem to have any audio on my end.
No, they're locked in the car, Annie.
Just checking. If it's electric, you can leave the air conditioning on for a lot longer. Just saying. So we can hear you, Nick. Can you hear us?
I think he mentioned he can't hear you.
I can hear.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Sorry to rush you.
No, it's. I'm glad you're running ahead of schedule. That's exciting. That's a good thing. So yeah. So which item are we on? I heard the vote for the resolution on the just a moment ago. So
Right.
Annie, where are we in the agenda?
So we're back up to the tourism program budget. Would you like to do that one?
Let's start there. Sure. Yeah. This is the.
And that's packet page, let's see, is that
31.
31? Okay, thank you. Take it away, Nick.
Okay, so yeah, the 2023 tourism budget is in your packet for review. This has all been submitted to county administrator and as a part of the overall county budget. So you'll be seeing it again in September when it comes back in the expanded budget committee. But this is just for review, since this is where this this activity lives, and we want to make sure there's any questions, you can address them or potentially think about them in advance of those sessions. So the 2023 tourism program budget is entirely funded through hotel room occupancy taxes. And that's a milestone because in the past 2 years, we have not. This current year, we are funded partially through American Rescue Plan funds. And in the past year, we had some other county funds that were infused into the budget to help break even through the COVID pandemic. To be more precise, we have just over $3.3 million in room tax forecast for 2023. And keeping with previous years and precedent, of the available funding, we're continuing the 60-40 split of having 60% of the funding directed toward marketing and the balance, the 40% going toward product development, which is generally grants and other programs that help improve and increase the capacity of tourism in our community. So you can see in the memo in your packet how those programs are spelled out in a lot more detail about them. I'd say I'll just kind of highlight a few significant changes and then open it up to questions here. One of the significant changes for 2023 is a shift for what we had called the strategic planning and staffing line, which represents the salary and fringe for my position, along with some incidental costs, shifting that from the tourism program side of the budget to the county 10% administrative side of the budget. So that is spelled out and described in there and the rationale for that. In addition to that, you'll notice that there is an increase. I think there are, we tried to generally increase or allow for growth for all of the programs that are funded through the tourism program. Some noteworthy ones, I think the Convention Visitors Bureau has the addition of a staff person focused on the conference center. That's spelled out in the memo, and continued maintenance of programs that have been ongoing, and also expansion and growth in the Arts and Culture Organization Development Grant. Yeah, I think those are the top things. I want to say a big thank you to the folks who worked on this. This is a lot of work goes into our annual budget. We have a committee of the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, the Budget Committee, and Greg helped out on that a lot. So I want to say thanks to those folks who made this happen this year. And with that, I guess I'll kind of wrap it up and open up to any questions the committee has.
Any questions from the committee? Randy?
Yes, Nick, thank you. I'm not going to bore the rest of the people with my questions. I really don't know much about the center, so I'd like to make an appointment to come and speak to you, if that's okay. And
that's okay.
Kind of educate me for that. I do have another question though. Newfield has been asking about improvements around the covered bridge area. Is that something that would a grant application would work for the capital budget or grant process?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think the Newfield covered bridge is certainly a very unique asset locally. And we could definitely have that discussion if there are improvements or maintenance efforts that need to be addressed. So yeah, let's have that talk.
Yeah, the state did a lot of work there through a grant 20 years ago or more. I forget how many years ago that was. But now a lot of the walkways are deteriorating and there are some safety issues. So I'll make them aware of that. So.
Very good. One item that was not mentioned in the memo, I should have addressed here earlier is also there is a STPB has recommended a over target request that is being reviewed currently by administration related to arts funding. This relates to the a program that Community Arts Partnership runs called the statewide regrant program, basically for very small arts programs and venues around the county. So you will likely be seeing more about that in the expanded budget committee meeting. I don't have a document right on my fingertips to share it. And it wasn't in the packet because we weren't sure what was going to happen with it when we had to put this in the packet. So.
Thanks, Nick. Any other questions? Okay, glad to see the numbers keep going up for revenue.
Looks like that.
Did someone else?
Yeah,
Deborah,
Annie. Yeah, a couple of things. So I'm trying to understand this, a couple of things. We have this 10% set aside for the county that comes out of the gross room tax. And in addition to that, there used to be some amount that was put towards your salary, Nick, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So now we're going to take your salary out of the county's 10%.
That's the proposal in the current budget.
Right, and that will leave more money for grants, et cetera. Okay, but then the other piece that I'm trying to clarify, did you say that in addition to the 4% that we're dedicating to the convention center, we're also going to be paying for staffing for that, or were you talking about the Convention and Visitors Bureau?
I was talking the Convention Visitors Bureau included in their budget proposal, additional staffing focused on the conference center. And I think Peggy can provide a little more depth in the purpose of this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
The conference center, we are not going to be able to actually accept bookings until January of 2024, most likely. We may be able to take things earlier than that, but to actually sign contracts earlier than that because of the development schedule right now. So all of 2023, the management company will not have any sales staff in place for the majority of 2023. We're already working to sign contracts for 2024 and beyond. So the position that we're looking to add would be additional sales, but also support. So someone to push leads through third-party entities to be able to get bookings in place into the conference center. Typically the structure and what we have agreed to with ASM Global, who is the management company, generally speaking, anything that happens 12 months or less from the date of booking is managed and sold by the management company, and anything beyond that 12 months, 24 months and out is handled by the CVB. And so in essence, it's right now we have one person dedicated solely to selling all of the assets we have in the county, plus the conference center. And by adding another person, we'd be able to do a bigger push to the conference center to make sure that we are opening with business on the books and making sure that that is a successful location.
And would this be a permanent position, or is this just temporary until the?
No, it would be permanent.
Okay.
It's pretty standard in the, industry for a CVB to, especially the conference center, to have a salesperson in that capacity selling that space specifically. Peggy, that's a fair statement, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Larger destinations have multiple people focused just on conference center business.
Okay. And this position is going to be funded out of room tax, not county funds.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks for that report, Nick and Peggy. And then next, tourism program update.
This is our second quarter update as we're switching this year from bi-monthly to quarterly updates, which lines up with our room tax reports. Just a couple of highlights here. Our grant programs are currently open and accepting applications for community celebrations grants, tourism program project grants, tourism marketing grants, capital grants. The deadline for all of those is September 12. We're doing a workshop next week, August 2nd. There's a link in your packet there to the website that you can share that information to anybody you think might be interested in applying. There's also the second quarter room occupancy tax report. I understand Rick already gave a update on that to the full ledge, so I'll save, unless you have questions you want to direct toward me, I'll save that item. Just a few other highlights of updates for this year, for this quarter, I should say. One noteworthy one is we are, in the midst of working through some efforts on our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging committee, and addressing some of the things that we came up during a workshop that we had in May with Judy Rowe. So I think more to come on that, and that's something I think we're excited to make some progress on. So if you have any other questions about that memo or the update, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Nick. Any questions? Comments, concerns, typos, suggested typo? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Looks like we don't have any questions. And thank you sorry to put you on the spot, but thank you for being in the car and be willing to try and run that, through us to the best of your memory. And thanks to Katie for helping us reshuffle things so that we could allow you time to get home.
Great.
All right.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thank you guys very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And do any committee members have any reports? Things you're doing over the summer that have to do with this committee? Okay, lake level down, up. I know some of you are on the lake more than others, just wondering. Okay, all right, I think that's it. If we don't have anything else, I will call this meeting adjourned, and thank you everybody for coming. Have a good rest of your week.